So here's how I would recommend that you put together the data for the results section of your paper. Now you'll notice here that I've formatted the data a little bit differently. So I have 3 columns for the absorbance data itself. And then I have a separate column for time. So this looks different than the way the tables are set up in the lab itself. Up here I have temperature, so this is just some temperature data that I made up. And here I have a title, Effects of Temperature. So you can set up the Excel spreadsheet to look like this for the data sets that you're going to be using for your lab report. Now to actually create the graph, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the data that I want to graph. Now yours may look a little bit different if you're using Windows. This is on Mac. So I'm going to insert, click on that tab. I'm going to go over here to Charts, and I want to insert a line graph because that's what we're going to be using. Now I'm going to pick one here that has the markers on it, and I'll explain why in a second. And then I'm going to create the graph. So now I have this graph that has my absorbances over here. So these are absorbance values. Now time values are going to be down here. You'll notice there are no time values yet. It just says 1 through 9. But here my data have been graphed. So in both Windows and Mac, there's this button over here that says Add Chart Element. What you can do is you can add axes titles. So I'm going to add a primary horizontal, and I'm going to add a primary vertical, and then I can just type in the axis title here. So this is going to be time in seconds, and this is going to be absorbance, if I can get that. Oops. If I can get that typed in here. And now I need to fix a couple of things. I need to fix this axis right here, and I need to get these series legend titles correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the graph, and I'm going to go to this thing that says select data. This will be the same in both Mac and Windows. Now Windows, this is going to look a little different. You'll have over on the left this box that says series legend entries, and then you'll have a box over here that has actually the horizontal category x-axis labels. So it looks a little different, but it works the same. So I want to label my horizontal axis so that I actually have the time. So I'm going to click on this little button here, and it's going to close this window. It's going to allow me to select the data. So I'm going to select here my time, data points, and then I click on this button again. And when I click OK, just so you can see it, now it's changed this axis so that I have my time values. I need to then go in and make sure these series are labeled correctly. So again, I'm going to right click, do select data, and then here are my series, and I just want to name them. So this first series, those data points, are from here, this 4 degrees centigrade. So I'm going to click on this button. I'm just going to click on that cell, click on the button again, and I'm just going to do the same thing. So series 2, click on the button, that's 20 degrees. Series 3, that's my 80 degrees. And then when I click OK, it's going to update those. Now, the nice thing about doing this is if I change this, so say I messed up and it was actually supposed to be 10 degrees centigrade, what will happen is it'll automatically update the graph because the data points are in here. So that's a good way to create the charts that you're going to use. Now I mentioned using data points. I would recommend actually selecting data points that are different shapes, because if you print in black and white, or if you save this in black and white, you won't be able to see the difference. Fortunately, I think we're going to do this all electronically, so that won't be as big a deal.